Okay, everybody, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. I love having amazing people on the show as fellow podcasters out there doing great things. Nick is here with me. Excited to have him here and get some time with him. I'm going to have him on some of my other shows as well, which is a thrill. Anytime I can spend time with Nick is a good time. You're going to love this. And one thing we're going to talk about in your podcast is having buckets. And Nick has buckets and they work. And I don't know if a lot of podcasters even have thought about having some kind of content in buckets for their show. And Nick's got that all nailed down. He's going to share some great ideas with you. He's got some great resources as well through his website. Nick, welcome to the How to Podcast series. Glad to have you here, my friend.
Man, I appreciate it, Dave. This is cool. I think this is going to be really awesome for us to get into the stuff that we're going to get into, especially from the bucket perspective. I think you're right. I think most people, and especially the clients that I tend to work with, it's one of those things where they may know something about that, like, oh, maybe I should, but also I don't know to do it. It's interesting because I think at times marketers really mess things up, like really badly. Like I often think about Clubhouse and how great Clubhouse was until people came in and just destroyed it. And like marketers try to find efficiencies and all of that and try to find loopholes and blah, blah, blah. I also look for efficiencies, but I try to look for the things that what makes the most sense to me. And like, what's the most aligned? And from a podcasting perspective, some people can forget that there are marketing or business principles that just need to be incorporated into it in a wholesome way and like actually part of that show. So we think from a marketing perspective for a product, if you're going to promote a product, you need to talk about the different highlights and the values and all those different things. And people instantly then think, well, I have to do that all through social media. And they start to think about really the how and not as much the why of it.
Right.
And that's what I look at. Where I look at, let's get back to the basics of who are you talking to? Who is your ideal audience member? And what are they actually searching for? So to tie it back to marketing, it's search engine optimization. It's basic keyword research that a lot of people don't really think about. And I'll be honest, I didn't think about it at first, but I also set myself up for success without really knowing it. So my show is the Mindset and Self-Mastery Show. I have 3 core topic buckets: mindset, self-mastery, and personal transformation. I set myself up for success with those 2 buckets, but I didn't really understand that I was doing that until I got deeper into the conversations and maybe 100 episodes in. And It really hit me at that point that like, having these similar conversations in slightly different ways, and these guests that were coming on were presenting unique angles. And I could start to see patterns of things. I'm sure anybody who's, I don't know, maybe 50, 100 episodes in, or even timeline-wise, a year or 2 in, you can basically look back and see patterns. Like, how many times do you think you've looked back and you're like, oh, look at that?
Yeah.
Right. You know?
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, oh, well, I just carry along and do these things. But we will often, what I find is like business leaders or thought leaders, they go, well, this is my passion project, or this is the thing where I'm going to talk about the thing that's on my heart. And they forget about the like core principles of things. Now, I'm not one of those people that's like rules based and everything has to fit in this sort of way. But if it makes sense, it's so like, why not look at that? So being able to figure out what your core topic buckets are that tie directly to your ideal audience member allows you to then be able to speak to those people, which ties into what I work with people on is how do you best resonate with people? And specifically your ideal audience. So like if I was talking like the way I'm talking right now, but talking more so from a perspective of, I don't know, engineering or something, like the audience would be like, who is this guy? And what are you talking about? But these people get it because they're podcasters and they go, all right, well, I have a podcast to do the thing. I know it's hard work. It's also fun. And I'm trying to figure things out and like really mess around, find out. But in all reality, if we step outside of the stuff that we're doing, which can be hard, especially like you're doing all these episodes and going from one thing to the next. It can sometimes just be tough to go, all right, time out. Let me think about this a little bit. I don't want this to be a shameless plug, but it's where mentoring comes into play. Somebody that's been further than you can look and go, here's where I can see things going. And let's look at it from a strategic angle and work on this together. You can do this at home though. Like you can work through the stuff on your own. Even from your perspective, Dave, thinking about the buckets, what do you think when I brought that up for the first time?
Again, I don't think a lot of people talk about this, and I think we need to talk about it more. we kind of have our why as far as our audience, but our why around our content. I think having buckets helps us to kind of plan out our content better too. We're not
Big
so
time.
random and, like a kind of a shotgun approach to it. Is you're really laser focused on who you serve and your content, and doing that better than trying to do a whole bunch of stuff kind of okay.
Yeah.
You really like laser focused on what you're doing. I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to, though. I've spent a lot of time in creative agencies and working on giant projects and then some smaller projects and working with small businesses up to Fortune 500 companies and seeing how a lot of these companies work and how they iterate on things. One of the big things, there was a company I worked with before, and I remember talking to different prospects, and they'd be like, we're not whatever your big name clients are. I don't want to name them because there's no point to.
Yeah.
But they're like, we're not these Fortune 500 companies. I'm like, that's totally cool. But those companies, the people that I work with are in a small division that are basically the size of your company. So they're their own little companies. And if we think about what you're trying to do, it's the same mission. So if we take those business perspectives and put them into the podcast and go, all right, I know who I want to talk to. And oftentimes I find that it's typically very close to the host. The host has the characteristics of who their ideal audience member is because they started the conversation to have that conversation. They were looking and searching for things similarly to what their audience is. And even if we know what we've talked about in the past that we think ties to the audience, it actually doesn't matter unless we find out what people are searching for. And that's where I think keyword research comes into play, because then we go, all right, well, I've got these buckets. Let me figure out what topics and questions and phrases and all that fit within the buckets. Let me actually find out what people are searching for. Like I talked to somebody recently that said somebody created some AI thing for him and went through all the podcast episodes that he'd done and all these different things and said, these are the things you've talked about, so talk about them more often. I was like, well, that's cool, but that was all stuff that you talked about before. What are your people actually searching for? And I could almost hear him blink. Like, well, these are the things I talk about, though. Great. But what are people searching for? Right. And if we don't know what they're searching for, we then can't do anything with it. And this is all work in progress. Like, I know your audience understands that you're a work in progress. All of us are a work in progress. But even with myself, I do the work on my own stuff. And I look at, how do I do this in a fluid and a fun way? Like, I am not the type where it's like, you need to do this thing for an hour long. If my being tells me I'm going to do it for an hour and a half and that's how long it took, so be it. Yeah. So I look similarly to like what you're saying. It lets us be strategic, but flow is kind of that approach of like, we've all sat down. You've done this too. I know you have, where it's like, what am I going to talk about today? Well, I kind of know the main thrust. All right, cool. And other podcasters have told me as long as I know what the through line is, then I'm totally good. Cool, but like, what's the through line through it all?
What do you think about people who start a show? I'm thinking one show in particular. They start a show, they have a pretty narrow focus, they know who their audience is, but over time, they just kind of seem to open the door and they get people on the show that have nothing to do with the original intent of the show. And it feels like it's sometimes that the host seems a little bored because the people that they're interviewing don't tie back to them and they don't have a passion for what these people are talking about, but they're a guest and I got to do an episode. So I just bring on random person. And the podcast has got to this point where if you came for that originally and that was your podcast and that was your podcaster, that was your person, now the content is all over the place and there's no buckets anymore. Yeah. It's just like this big ocean of content. And you're like, why am we here?
What are we listening to?
Right. What is this? What the show has changed, right?
Yeah.
Those buckets, is that kind of like a saving grace for us to come back, keep our focus, refocus ourselves and stay on topic?
Yeah. And also let's look at context. Like after so many episodes, there are different points that you hit. Like the 21 episode rule is a big thing, a huge thing. So if somebody is less than 21 episodes in, 99% of the chances you're just going to fail. You're just going to stop because that's typically where people end up just laying down and dying. If you get past that, I've realized that it's like another 50 to 100 episodes and you start to get a little bored with how things are working. But then that's for you to be able to look at it and go, what do I want to do with this? The flavor I understood was I actually want to get deeper in specific things. So those topics really helped me with that. Because if I know, all right, I'm having somebody on the show, first off, if they're on the show, they have to fit into one of those buckets, and not like 100% black and white. They just fit in the bucket. There's a little bit of a Venn diagram, but as long as they're somewhere within the vicinity of it. And I tell this to clients, like, if you have what your buckets are and you go, well, there's this other thing I want to talk about, the simple answer is just don't. Or if you want to, let it be an outlier, but also tie it back to something you're doing. Because if not, what are you doing? And if you really want to start another podcast that talks about sports or whatever that thing is, then just go do that. And if you go, well, I really don't want to do that because I really like what I'm doing here and I spend all the time, blah, 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 then that's more of an internal thing that they need to figure out. Like, what do you want to do? But people will get bored with certain things. However, I do think those buckets, if we know what they are, allow us to then play kind of with those buckets. Like, think about it from like a jazz perspective. And I tell all my guests on the show, like, I've got two bookends. There's a question I'm going to ask up front, and then there's a question I'm going to ask at the end, like the book sale, where can people find you, blah, blah, blah. The rest of this is jazz. So if it sounds a little off, like, give it a beat. It'll come back. We'll be totally good. And it's also on us as the host to be able to move things in the direction that we need to. Having those buckets, man, there have been different times where I've actually thought, like, there's several different ways we can go about this from what the person just brought up. And then I go, well, what bucket is it fitting into? Primarily, it's this one. It's transformation or it's self-mastery or whatever. So then that allows me as the host to kind of nudge it in that direction and see if it takes. Because if it takes, then beautiful. If it doesn't, and the conversation is moving in a different direction, then letting it flow in that direction. But there's already something there with them. Like the people that get onto my show, it's gated. So you can't just randomly sign up and just... Like, I always find it interesting when people just have live links out there for people to just book calls and all that. It's like, what are you doing? Unless it's like gated in a certain way. So I have a page that I have to send to people. So I get people that are reaching out to me, and there are times where I reach out to different people because I feel like they can fit within one of those buckets. And I think about it sort of like how you have this podcast, inviting people into the conversation. I want to have this conversation. And if you want to have a similar conversation and you want to be part of the show, then wonderful. This is the kind of conversation we have. What's your unique angle on that conversation? And then being able to go down that path so that the listener comes back and they know this is what I'm getting into. From like music, I think about it. There are different times where I'm like, I am really in the mood to listen to some crazy, heavy, dark metal right now. There are other times where I'm listening to what my girlfriend calls elevator music, because it's just like binaural beats and things of that sort. If I went into the binaural beats and it opens up Meshuggah, I'm going to be completely, well, it depends on how I'm feeling, but I'll be at least shook a little bit. So same deal where people will get to the podcast and are like, cool, I think I have an idea, even if it's subconscious, but they're like, this is what the show's about. Let me talk about and listen to it. Like if somebody got to the mindset and self-mastery show and I talked about March Madness for every episode, I don't know how it would work. It just wouldn't make any sense, and people would never come back.
Right. Interesting. Okay, we didn't really talk about this yet, but how did podcasting find you?
So I had been told for a number of years that I should start a podcast, like back in 2012, 13, something like that. And I had a cousin that would just send me the word podcast. Like he would just text me podcast every few months to the point where I was like, stop it. But in 2021, I got a divorce, and the quickest way to this is I got a divorce and was like, all right, well, I asked myself the question of what do I want? And this is not what I wanted. So if I can do that and make that big decision, what else do I want to do? And that ended up kind of tripping me into sort of coaching, but men's coaching, because I was basically going through a divorce and friends were like, hey, I got a buddy and you talk to him or what have you. And I had hired a coach from a music perspective. I actually hired somebody, I paid somebody thousands of dollars to learn how to master music. And as I got into it, I don't know, got like 50, 60% of the way through it and went and started a podcast. I remember him even telling me, you don't need to start a podcast, but I do think you need to be a speaker. And I think you need to be a healer. And you can speak really well, but you don't need to start a podcast. And I remember feeling the incongruence in my head. And I was like my eyes were going different directions with what he was saying. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. And later that night, I was like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to stand this thing up. And what are the conversations I'm already having? It's mostly about like how we handle our mental attitude and like what energy we put into these things and that we're saying to each other. And I tell people different times, like podcasting legitimately changed my life. And I don't mean that from like a woo-woo sort of way, like legitimately. So about a year into the podcast, I got a message from my girlfriend who had said, "Hey, I would love to be on your show." I didn't know her at the time. And she was like, "I would love to have an intro call." I hadn't done intro calls in like 6 months at that point, but I saw her picture on her website, was like, "I would talk to you about anything." And when we got on the call, I actually couldn't say words for the first few minutes because I was just like dumbfounded and smitten, head over heels in love. And she's giving me a look like, and because of the conversations I was having with people on the show and the work that I was doing, it was spurring more work, which was also spurring a deeper relationship with this person I was just connected to. And then that just took me down a whole different path. The amount of work and stuff that I've done over the past few years, I left corporate. I changed the way I was doing lots of things. I learned about the subconscious winning strategy, which is basically a strategy we as kids, toddlers learn in our formative years. It tells us how we can win and how we can basically be loved or stay safe and whatever is against really our core wound. Mine was always to not be abandoned or unloved. So I developed a strategy on how not to do that, turned into a sales career, made a lot of money, did a lot of things, but also hated a lot of it. So podcasting was part of me understanding, like, I want to have more of these conversations and be able to get the stuff out there. Yeah. These conversations need to be had. And if it's on a platform like podcasting, which is what we have in the context of today, if maybe would have been standing on the corner or sitting at a cafe 100 years ago and having just deeper conversations with people. But I've learned that over the course of doing this, that there are also things that I've learned in the other tracks of life that tie in, like business and strategy and marketing. And I've done a lot of work over the past few years, specifically on the SEO side, because I was like, I do not want to just post incessantly on social media. And I don't feel like it's getting me anywhere. In fact, I think I got shadow banned on Instagram like 3 episodes in and realized that I don't want to do that. And inside felt that doesn't feel right to me. So I've learned how to actually optimize. Like I shut my website down for a while. I built the website up again, had somebody else build it for me. It was trash. It wasn't even indexed for a little while. And then figured out all the things. So all the stuff that I work with people on, I consider myself a mentor because I'm not a coach. And I'm certainly not going to pull things out of a playbook. I'm just going to tell you these are the things that have worked for me and help you understand from your context, like what it looks like. But man, I mean, think about how many times in life you're like, I just need this thing to just be simple. Like, what's the one thing? Like, how do I make this thing? I need eggs. I need oil. I need this, like whatever it is. Like, just tell me what these dumb little things are. Don't tell me all the excess stuff. And that's where, like, even with the resonating, the ranking and the reaching, like these are 3 major principles that I think we all understand are there. But I haven't seen anybody else really talk about it, especially in the way that I'm talking about it. So you've brought up the buckets. We talked about the buckets a bit. Yeah. If we can resonate with people because we know who we're talking to, we know what those buckets are, and we set ourselves up with our website to be able to actually be rankable, searchable, and Google search and podcast databases and directories, we will ultimately reach the right audience. And we're going to reach more and more and more people, and people that are intentional. Man, I really hope that people can understand that people that are actively looking for whatever the thing you're talking about, they probably don't give a shit when they find you on social media because that's just not where their brain's at. Like, think about when you're looking for something. You ask a friend, like, oh, I know Jimmy will point me in the right direction because he always knows where I can get this lawnmower piece or whatever else. Or you just go online and you actually search it and go, I want to know, where do I find this thing? What do I look for? Blah, blah, blah. You're intentionally looking. And I think we as podcast hosts, if we set ourselves up to be intentionally found by those people that are intentionally looking, then we get those people and we speak directly to them. You know, like, where would they go? Yeah. If you were the resource, why would they just be like, oh, well, that was cool and disappear like they do on social media? And people are like, but like 4 billion people looked at my TikTok. Like, cool. Any of them do anything? And so from that concept, it's like, that's where I've thought of being in different agencies and the work that I've done where I'm like, man, that makes too much sense to me. Let me try that. And let me understand how this stuff actually works and how it relates. And really, I think it all boils down to, like, the easiest thing is just be you and have the conversation you are here to have. If you're trying to have some other conversation, people can smell it and they can tell.
Right.
Like, I have a few clients that they have to script their episodes. And I've told them that part of my job is to help you feel more free so you don't have to do that. And then whatever
Right.
people will need to do, people will do bullet points, people will do scripts, they'll do all these things. If it's an audio podcast, it's a little different. But if it's video, which is where things are going, then that can be a little weird because you're like looking down at the thing. But being able to understand internally what I feel about these things hits different parts of our beings that people just can't actually put into tactics. Like you'd even asked me before we did this, like, what sort of secret stuff is there that we can stay away from? Like, this isn't secret stuff. This isn't. This is just connect with people. Set yourself up so people can find you. And then you'll be found. Like, some people don't understand the basics of that. And there's no shade on them. But once you're aware of something, to do something with it. So I ask people at different times, like how often they go back through and look at what's actually working for them from a SEO perspective. And sometimes, more times than not, they're like, I don't know. I don't even know what to do with that.
Right.
Or if it even mattered in what we do. And I think it really does, because these are, man, think about it. We've got audio and video and show notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the trifecta right there, you know?
Yeah. All three. The intentional looking thing, I think that's super important for people to consider. On social media, people aren't necessarily intentionally looking for a podcast.
Yeah.
That's not what social media is for a lot of people. It's a time gap filler while you're doing whatever, right? Like, and I kind of put it in this context, Nick. I think like I'm outside of the front yard of my house, I'm raking some leaves, and some random person walks up and says, "Hey, do you want to buy windows for your house?" And I'm like, "No, I'm raking leaves. I have no thought of replacing my windows right now.
Yeah.
How about we fix your driveway?" Well, no, I'm not looking. If I was looking, I would intentionally go looking for somebody to do my driveway. I'm raking leaves. This is the wrong time for this conversation, right? So I'm not even receptive to it. So go away. And on social media, we're here saying, "Hey, episode 10 went out, everybody," and people are like, "And
Yay.
what?"
Yeah.
Like, I'm not here for that. No. And I think intentional looking, being found where people are intentionally looking for you is so key. Do you think, I hear this in podcasting, that people will say that podcasting has a search problem. Podcasting has a search engine optimization problem. And we can find you on Google, but we can't find you on Apple and Spotify and Audible. It's hard to find your next favorite podcast. Do you think podcasting has a search problem?
In certain ways, maybe. But really, for the most part, think about the intentional piece of that. Somebody is on that platform looking for you. Yes, there may be somebody else who has more downloads on that platform. Therefore, somebody else is going to be served up faster. But I think from the base level, if somebody has a question, like I'll stop being kind of all over the place with it. My podcast is about mindset. Mental health is like the major bulk of that. If somebody's looking for something specifically for mindset, I want them to be able to find me. I rank, I believe I'm 1 to like 8 if you look up mindset and self-mastery. Those rank. The separate ones are different because there's context and there's schools and there's all these things that tie into that. Those people that are looking for something, that are trying to say, well, I'm going to the gym and I want to look for this thing. Maybe they're not congruent thoughts, but like within the next 45 minutes, that person's going to go to the gym. If they find your podcast, guess what they'll probably listen to when they get to the gym? Your podcast, because you're helping them work on the thing they're working on. They're doing the research on that. So if they come across that and that piece helps them, and it's similar to a blog post. That's why people write blogs. So you can find their site and get to it from some weird little door in because it tied to whatever you're searching for. So if people are on any of the like Spotify or Apple or any of that stuff, and they're looking for you, you can optimize yourself for that. But I think if you optimize yourself from the top level down, everything else starts to trickle through. So that's where it's like, how do we do this in a simpler way? Even back to the buckets. Like, I think I have these sort of conversations. Cool. What are the main buckets they fit into? Like Home Depot buckets or like standard buckets where you go, I have to throw a ball into one of these. What does it fit into? And then what are some of the basics to do? Like there's some people I talk to, they don't have a website. That sucks. Where are you sending people? People might find you on Apple, they might find you somewhere else, or they might not. And people will have a social media page up, like an Instagram or whatever. And they're like, well, I think people will find me there. Until Meta wants to shut down, and then you can't get back in, you're totally screwed. Right. But if you have an optimized site that's continually pulling people in, showing more domain authority, it's the longer term that it's going to take. But if you're going to do it, you might as well do it. Somebody said to me recently that they think of SEO as a retirement plan. That's a beautiful way to look at it for me. Yeah. Because if you're doing content right now, you're trying to get a flash in the pan. You're trying to get somebody that goes, oh man, this thing hit me at the right time while being bored, sitting at the office or whatever. And like, yeah, you might hit those people. But at the same time, if you've got somebody that's like, man, I'm really working on this stuff. How do I do this? Right. Whatever that is. And they come across your information. Again, why wouldn't they come back?
That's really good. I like that. That's a good retirement plan. I think that's smart. That's really good. That's a good investment of your time too.
Big time. And I mean, even with that, like if you think about you're investing your time, there are people that create all these different clips and spend all this time creating stuff, or they spend all the money having a production company create all these things. They post them all over the place or in different groups and all of that. Well, what if you just focused on creating really great show notes and have a really great quality product that's both audio and video high quality and have great graphics that go along with that, and maybe one or two clips to have a couple little tastes on a search engine like YouTube instead of all over the place. Think about the time you'd cut down. And that's a thing, like even production wise. And I know on a different podcast, we talk about editing and all that sort of stuff. But from a production perspective, there's certain clients that I work with that are like brand new and they're like, man, I feel like all of this is all over the place and it's so tough. It's like, yeah, it can be. So let's minimize it. And then we figure out what the things are and what actually need to be done for them. They're like, oh, an hour or it's 2 hours or whatever it's going to be. And however it works for those people. But we look and we go, oh, everybody tells me I need to put all these things out on social media. I must have 8 billion clips. And then there are people that use tools without actually using QA on that. Like I got a batch of clips from somebody recently that I did a podcast episode with, not on my show, on their show. And they used one of the AI platforms that's out there. I'm being real specific to not name any names at all. And just gave me a lot of out of context clips. They were like 24 seconds, little snippets that have some emojis and stuff. The video was off because there was no scaling to it. There was nothing done with lighting. There was nothing done at all. And these out of context clips, like, what are you supposed to do with that? People will take those out of context clips and put them up on social media, starting a sentence like randomly at the grocery store at somebody and be like, so there I was and punched them in the face. What did they do? Why did you hit them? You know, like in the middle of a sentence. It doesn't make any sense. So I think we need to think about that as well. It's like, what message are we getting out there, and curate it better? Be more specific in what you do, because the more specific you are, the more specific you're going to speak to those people. Not trying to reach every single person on the planet. And if you are, my first suggestion with that is stop and figure out what conversation you're supposed to have. And let yourself kind of vibe with it in a sense. Like, think about you even, Dave. Like you've ebbed and flowed and you've grown and tested out different things, and your conversations have shaped a little differently because of the people you've had on, the things you've talked about. But there's still that through line. And that's one of the things I really appreciated about stuff that I read, saw, and heard before we even connected. I was like, there's a through line here. Great. Instead of that, like, we're going to talk about this, then we're just randomly going to jump 4,000 miles away and talk about some other thing and then come back and then wonder why we're not getting traction, or think that the traction's only coming from people that are on social media, which I think if we see it, like even some of this conversation, I can hear you're like, like duh. A duh moment. Like it makes total sense. But then we don't always act on it. And that's where I look to people to say, well, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what those things are and why you don't want to act on it, or what you're afraid of. Some of it is like, well, this is like my hobby and I like to do this thing, but I have a job and I have all this other stuff. Or there are people who just tell me, oh, I've thought about SEO, but that is too scary. The amount of times I've heard people say that, like, I don't know what to do with it, so I'm not going to do anything. I hear you on that. And that's something to work on personally. However, you don't always have to do these things on your own. Some of it is like, I don't know, somebody can show you in a 10-minute little Zoom call or something of like, here's some things to look at. And some of it's basic stuff. Like even you have to have your microphone on. Everybody who listens to this understands you need to have your microphone on. Imagine if we didn't have our microphones on.
Oh, I know.
So just like when people are like, well, I don't know where people find me and I hope that they'll find me. Well, are you plugged in? Like, do you have a website where people can find you? Can the indexes serve you up because you match what somebody is specifically looking for? No, but I post on social media 100,000 times a day. Cool. How's it working?
And is that intentional searching by that audience to find you? Or are you just yelling into the void?
Yeah. And that's where I think this stuff really kind of works together. But like the back of it is, if we know who we're talking to, we know what those main buckets are, then whether it's a solo or a guest episode, we get to be able to have those conversations from our unique angle. But then we also need to do the work to just base level set ourselves up to be able to be found and continue to have that conversation. Oh, here's something. I do think there's a bit of a search problem, even with people that are really strategic, because we do have different guests on. We do have different people that are talking about different angles and all of that, where it's not just specifically like from a blog perspective. If you write a blog post and then say, all right, I'm going to spin off of this and create another piece that actually is an attribution to that, like I'm going to talk about this more in depth, you're continuing that same thread of conversation. But as podcasters, we have vastly different conversations, even if they're around the same thing. So I've noticed even with my own stuff, it's taken me a while at different points to be able to really grow. But once you start to reach a point where that conversation has been had a lot and it's out there and connected, then it starts to help you rank even faster and faster. Truthfully, mindset and self-mastery are tough to go after. It's almost like, not quite totally, but close to like trying to rank for Uber or Apple or something, which is nonsense. But if we know what our core buckets are and the things that we're talking about, and we're having those conversations anyway, then setting ourselves up to be able to have that retirement fund that'll just keep growing and growing and growing, it's inevitable that we'll reach those people. We'll have those conversations. And we just have, some of it's just basic stuff that some people just don't know. And I love those conversations where people are like, I didn't know this thing existed. I'm like, yeah, because typically there's like another 10 layers we can go with it. And I have to caveat with certain clients. I'm like, we can go as deep as you want or as surface level as you want. And there are times where like, I have to work bit by bit by bit. And the next thing you know, they look and they're like 15 feet deep in the water. And they're like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was.
Interesting. Okay, Nick, so give me, for a podcaster listening, maybe a couple things that you encourage podcasters to do for their show, to be found, to connect with their audience, and maybe a couple things that we could let go of that you found hasn't given the best return on investment based on the people you've talked to and the people you've coached. A couple things we should do, a couple things we should kind of, you can give up on that. Got some suggestions for us?
Oh, yeah. I think it's pretty easy because the way I look at it, it's really based on 3 categories and 3 pillars. So resonate, rank, and reach. And then go to my website, nickmcgowan.com, and see more about that. There's a training on there and all. But again, if we can resonate with our audience, we set ourselves up to be able to rank and be searchable, we will inevitably be found by people. That's kind of an easy way to look at it. To get that a little deeper and like something to do with it, the buckets. That's the biggest thing. If you know what you talk about on your show, if you're 100 episodes in, or if you're 3 episodes in and you're like, this is the conversation, this is where I'm going, I want you to really sit down, even with a piece of paper and a pen or pencil or whatever, and say, what are the main topics I talk about? And how do these fit into either themselves or what deeper buckets do they fit into? And then test those. Start having conversations about those. I would suggest people get deeper into keyword research and actually find out what people are searching for. That's a whole different art form and all that sort of stuff. I help with that. So if people want help, they can come to me for that. But knowing what people are actually searching for that tied to their buckets will make their conversations so much easier and be able to resonate with those people. So I think it all ties together. That's where we resonate, we rank, and we reach more people. The thing that they can let go of is truly whatever the rest of the world tells you to do. Even me. If I tell you like you should set your buckets up and you're like, no, man, okay, sounds good. Whatever you want to do, it's your podcast. If it feels like, that makes some sense, I want to start exploring that, then wonderful. But I don't think we have to follow with what everybody else is saying, where we have to post all these different times, join all the groups, and just blast out your posts about this new episode and have you seen this one and I can't believe you missed and blah, blah, blah. Like, remove the FOMO stuff. Stop doing the stuff that doesn't feel right to you. And again, if this stuff feels like it's resonated in some sort of way, then act on it. If it doesn't, again, if somebody's like, nah, man, I love social media, I want to post constantly, like that's part of my hobby or whatever it is, then cool, good on you. If not, and I suspect most other people are like, thank God you don't. And we can get even deeper, like from a YouTube perspective. YouTube is the second largest search engine behind Google. It's also owned by Google. So I make sure that all of my podcast episodes, the YouTube video is embedded into my website. Because when the crawlers get to it, they go, oh, YouTube. Oh, it's our cousin. Great. We already know, like, and trust them. Wonderful. Mm-hmm. And being able to make sure that I have my content that's there, but there are people that are starting to make separate channels specifically for their shorts because too many shorts is actually crowding out your long form content and confusing the crawlers because they're like, are you giving me little snippets or are you giving me long form? Because I get 60 minutes and then I get 100 billion of these like 30-second, 55-second ones. What do we do with this? And if you've actually noticed recently, YouTube has changed their shorts from a minute to 3 minutes because they're trying to make it longer, give more context, not just the waste of it. So people will look and they could create all these shorts and all that stuff. I'd say at least pause and think about it and feel into it. Yeah. I'm a feely person. I have to feel the things. So if it doesn't feel right to me, I shouldn't do it. The amount of times I've not listened to that is, but like just, this doesn't feel right. I don't want to do this. I actually pulled myself off social media for about a year and a half, like totally pulled everything off of it. I stopped, got rid of all the apps. It was wonderful. I'm back on it a bit and in an intentional way. So I guess with that, I guess a little caveat with social media is if you're going to do it, be intentional. I actually am a group expert in a pretty large group on Facebook. I think there's like 117,000 people in the group. It's all podcasters. And I see what these people ask for. I talk to some of these people and work through with the comments and all that stuff. Those people are intentionally looking for information. They're looking for help.
I like to say too, Nick, when I talk to people and they come and they're trying to build their podcasts, I tell them, if you have the honor of having time with your listener one-on-one, where they walk up to you in real life at a conference or an event and they're like, oh my gosh, Nick, I love your show. Don't let that moment pass you by. If they're on your screen and you're going to do an interview with them or whatever, you have a moment with a listener. Ask them, how did you find my show? How did you do this? Tell me exactly what you did. Oh, I went on my iPhone and I searched this and you showed up. Good. Because that's good information for you to know for the future. Don't let that opportunity go by, right? Always ask whenever you have that opportunity because you're going to learn a lot, a lot just from that. You'll find out what's working and what's not working. And if nobody tells you I found you on Facebook ever, and you spend 40 hours a week on Facebook and you've never had a return on your investment, then you might want to rethink your investment of time on that platform, for example.
That's a solid point too, and a solid question. Like if we all think, how many people have actually come to us through Facebook that you didn't actually have to pull in?
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Like sit with that and think about that for a second. Like everybody, where are these people coming from? And to your point, Dave, I'm sure a lot of people don't actually ask that. It's part of my being and just how it's in my blood from growing up with a small business owner as a family and being an entrepreneur. Where the fuck did you find me? Like, do I need to put more money into that channel or less money or whatever it is? But also be mindful of, I think to add to that, if you are only on social media, then of course it's the only way people are going to find you. If they ever find you. And if they do, it's only because that's the only place that you're on. So that doesn't justify that that's the only place it works. That's just the only place you're at. I think that's a good point, man. I think it's a really good point.
Now, I want to give you back your time, Nick, because you've been gracious with your time to be here with us. But I do have a question for you before we wrap up. If we use a third-party website, so like we have our hosting site where we give our podcast to, and they give us a free website. Thank you. We get a free website with our hosting site. Awesome. But it's branded to their website domain. It's all about them / the name of our show, right? So whatever your hosting site is, .com / how to podcast. Are they getting the bulk of our
All of it.
search traffic and all of our Google juice and all of that great stuff? Or do we have any benefit to that? Or should we have our own domain that we own, that own the whole thing ourselves? What your thoughts?
I always suggest that you have your own website. And certain people will tell me that's crazy. I have a social media page or whatever. The amount of friends, people that are in the industry, clients even that have lost their following overnight, had no idea why, and just totally shut down. Your website is your house. So if you have your own home, you can invite people into, you can share from it, etc. To touch on like if you're on Blueberry or anything else, they are the main domain. So they're getting the bulk of the juice. Right. However, the things that are talked about on your specific episode could ultimately show up in search because it was talked about. And that ties into how many other search terms and other things are above you. How many other results are there? And how many times have you talked about that specific thing, but you're still sending all of that juice to that host? I would suggest that you have your own website so that you push everything toward yourself. And then there are certain things to just understand. Like one of the things that I learned the hard way was to make sure that my metadata and my meta description rather was under 120 characters. I had no idea for, I don't know, a year or so. And as I was doing more research and taking programs on SEO, I remember one time it hit me and I felt like literally shame where I was like, oh my God. Oh no. I've just been putting the entire, this episode is about summary in there. So Google crawlers are reading it. Like in this episode, Nick and blah, blah, blah talk about, and then it all just cuts off. Or like it goes halfway through a sentence. Like, well, did he mean fire truck there? Or like, what did he mean? It doesn't make any sense. So there are base things that we can set up, but we need to have our own website for it. I suggest using WordPress, and most hosting platforms you'll work with will have a WordPress plugin that then you can track stats through that. You can post your episodes, and then using SEO tools on the back end to be able to help you understand how to do it. And some of that stuff is really difficult for people, but the concepts are simple. So if you understand where to do the things, where to update things, you'll start to see how it works and how it starts to get you to rank. But get your own house. Like, don't count on somebody else's.
So as you listen to this and you're thinking, I have no idea what these two are talking about. Perfect. Because that's why Nick is here and he wants to help you with this. That's exactly why he's on the show. And I want you to reach out to him. Nick, I'm going to throw it back to you for the final word. Please talk about your website again and your sign up thing, because you got some great resources for podcasters. But you're a podcaster, Nick. I want to just throw it back to you. It's your show. You close it off. Your final words and your resources as well. Please.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, Dave. I appreciate everyone that's listening. I hope that you're all able to get something from this. And I always suggest to people that listen to whatever show I'm on, do something with whatever you've learned. And if it's something that makes sense to you, then just experience it a little bit or go explore it a little bit. You can also go to my website, nickmcgowan.com, and you can reach out to me directly through that. I do mentoring. I also have packages and all those different things, but everything's customized specifically to each person I work with. You also see a free training that's on there that specifically works through how to resonate with your audience, how to set yourself up to rank, and ultimately how to reach the right audience and speak to them in the best way. There's that free training. I also go a lot more in depth with that and break down all the pieces to it. And then check out my podcast. So the Mindset and Self-Mastery Show. You can go to the .com for that, see all the episodes, see how I manage things. And I use my own show as a testing ground for all the work that I do. And I don't put any of the stuff on my clients that I haven't even done or tried to figure out or am actively working on. So I see it all as we're all in this together trying to figure these things out. And the people that don't know that they're hurting are typically in a really bad spot. The people that do know that they're hurting sometimes feel a little shame, or they're unsure of how to talk to somebody to get some help. And I want to encourage people to just reach out. There's no stupid questions or anything. And if you feel shame in a certain way about any of it, I can be compassionate about that. I understand. I've worked through a lot of that. Hell, I have the Mindset and Self-Mastery Show because it ties to a lot of that stuff. But being mindful that you don't have to do this alone. You shouldn't do it all alone. And if there's somebody that can help, even with guidance, and I'm not one of those guys that's like everything I sell is 10 grand. Not at all. I try to give as much as I can, resource-wise, advice-wise. There's really no secret sauce. Like, you just can't cook it the same way I can. I can help you and hook you up with whatever else I can hook you up with. But if you've got questions, some of this resonated in some sort of way, just go check out the training. It's 30 minutes long. If it makes sense, you have questions, great. If you don't have any questions and it all makes total sense, then just go implement and let me know how it works. And I think that's it. So, Dave, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you having me on the show. And everybody else, thank you so much for being with us.
Excellent. Nick McGowan, everyone. Go to the website, links in the show notes. You know how we do things. And I would love for you to reach out to him and let him know that you found him through the show and let him help you. Because that's why we bring these people on, everybody. We want to give you the resources and the tools and quality people who really care about you. And Nick is a great representation of that. That's why he's here, and I'm thrilled to have time with him. Nick, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast all the way through to the end. I love having these great guest co-hosts on the show to share their podcast with you. You have some homework to do. And what I'm asking of you is to go check out our featured guest co-host today. Go over and listen to their podcast. The links are always in the show notes. And I'd love for you to go and give them your love and support. And I think if we can all do that for each other, podcasting will be a lot more fun for all of us. So it's time to do what you've asked others to do for you. It's time to do for this guest co-host. Links in the show notes. Go over and check out their show and leave them a review, do the follow, go listen to their episodes in full, the entirety of an episode, which again shows to the apps that it's a good podcast because you're going there and you're staying to the end. It's probably one of the best ways you can help a podcaster grow their audience and be shown to more people is by simply going and listening wherever you listen to the very end, like you're doing right now here. This is the perfect way to signal to wherever you're listening on, this is a podcast worth promoting. And all of the apps want you to stay on as long as possible. So go over and listen to our guest co-host episode and leave them some feedback. If they have a buy me a coffee, send them a coffee. If they have a speak pipe, send them a voice message. If they have an email, send them an email. If they're on Instagram, send them a direct message. Do something to support our guest co-hosts. They've given up their time to be here with you, to be here with me. And we can give that back to them with time and attention, our love, our support. Thank you for doing all that for me as well. Here on the How to Podcast series, we'll talk to you soon for our next episode. It's Dave. You're still here? Awesome. I just want to chat a little bit about why I'm actually doing these little blurbs, these little extra pieces at the end of the podcast. We had a conversation recently and we talked about the fact that I was doing this. Got a little pushback on the fact that it's hidden, that people don't know about this. And I should tell people that this is happening right now at this point in the podcast. And I gently pushed back. I said, this is the whole point of it. I don't want people to know ahead of time to look forward to this. That becomes regular part of the content. The content on its own is fine. I wanted to give something bonus to you that only you're going to hear because you're still here. And what I'm seeing in my stats is that my retention rates are growing by simply doing this little thing at the end of the podcast. This thing we're doing right here, right now. Most people are gone. They heard the music. They skipped on. They're on to the next thing. They moved on with their day or into another episode. But you're still here. So this proves my point. You right now are proving my point that this works. So do you have to do this in your show? No, you don't have to. But if you're finding your retention rates are kind of falling off a little bit and you're like, I wish people would listen longer, then you need to think about either shortening your episodes, make them shorter. Maybe they're just too long, or maybe you're covering too much content in one episode. You can break them into smaller episodes and go a little deeper. There's a bunch of different things you can do if you don't want to do this, what I'm doing right now. But my encouragement for you is you need to come up with a way to get people to listen to your show longer. All of the apps will reward you in some way, somehow, with you keeping people on their app longer. That's just logical. That makes sense. So if you can keep people longer, then that's going to help you to grow your podcast. when you have people listen to the first 3 minutes of your show, but don't listen to the remainder of the podcast, it's not really helping you. They're not getting your message. They're not getting the full context of what you wanted to talk about in your episode or your guest or whatever. So the longer you can have people listen, the better. So it's working. And again, I remind people that, like back in the day, an album or CD, whatever, would have an extra bonus track that was hidden, not even in the listing of tracks on that album. It was like a bonus, a gift, like a surprise, a delight for your audience to find this extra track and to be in the know that I know that there's a bonus and you didn't know I knew. I found it. Didn't you find it? And then people want to go find it, right? Or again, the movie trailers or the movie credits at the end of the movie where everyone's leaving, rushing out the door and spilling their popcorn on you as they walk past you. You sit in your seat and you wait. You might be rewarded with some little bonus as all of those names go flying by on the screen. Some of these movies, they want you to see those names. Those names are important. So they'll throw something special at the end of the movie when everyone else is gone and they don't see it. But you did, because you stuck around. So thanks for proving to me right now in this moment that this works, because you're still hearing my voice. And come up with a way to make your podcast connect to the end of the episode. Not just the beginning, not just a great hook, but a great ending that keeps people listening longer. If you want to talk through this, reach out to me. You and I can come up with a plan for your show, specific to what you talk about, that can get people to listen longer to your show, because you've got great content, you're a great person, you've got a great audience. Let's put all those three things together and make your show better. howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for being here. Take care.